You say you want a revolution? Here are today's top lines, the Occupy Wall Street edition.
I don't have facts to back this up, but I happen to believe that these demonstrations are planned and orchestrated to distract from the failed policies of the Obama administration.
These demonstrations are the deepest proof of Obama's bankruptcy as a leader.
I love what you're doing. I believe that this can be turned into an action item for next year.
This is the molecular opposite of the beginning of this country.
Why are the Occupy Wall Street folks unworthy of Tea Party respect and ideals?
They're not law-abiding citizens. They're camping in a park where camping isn't allowed. They're breaking the laws on the Brooklyn Bridge. That's not Tea Party behavior.
Everything you described there, I believe, is a misdemeanor. The actual Tea Party was a felony.
A lot of them are down there for dating purposes.
People on Wall Street broke this country, and they did it one lousy mortgage at a time. And there has been no real effort to fix it.
There's the rich, then there's the poor, and then there was us. And the rich are stepping on our necks. They're trying to squash us down. But this is called an uprising, and we are taking back what is ours.
Right now, what's being communicated is we're not going to take it anymore. This is very Pink Floyd, right? No mas.
That, of course, was Dylan Radigan. So, with the noise from Occupy Wall Street spreading from coast to coast, is Washington listening? NBC's Mike Viqueira is at the White House for us, and Luke Russert is on Capitol Hill. And Mike, the president spoke out on the protest in his press conference earlier today. Let's take a listen.
Okay.
The American people are very frustrated. They've been frustrated for a long time. They don't get a sense that folks in this town are looking out for their interests.
The president said the protests voice a widespread frustration. They're there in Washington today. Is the government listening, Mike?
Well, it's funny, Martin. You know, as you come on the air with me today, the Occupy Wall Street Washington version has just marched up 15th Street from Freedom Plaza down on Pennsylvania Avenue over into Lafayette Park here. So it is coming closer to home. And it's funny, Martin, because both the president and Vice President Biden were asked about this at separate events, about a half a mile apart from each other and about 10 minutes apart time-wise. And if it might not surprise you to learn that Vice President Biden was very eager to take up the Tea Party comparison. He volunteered it at a symposium that was moderated by David Gregory of Meet the Press. The Vice President Biden said there's a lot in common with the Tea Party. And of course, Martin, if you go back to September 29th, 2008, the day that the TARP vote went down in Congress, bringing the stock market down some 700 points, who voted against TARP? Who said it was a bailout for banks? It was both ends of the political spectrum. It was populists on the right and populists on the left. The genesis of the Tea Party on the right, or throughout the political spectrum, I think they would argue, and liberals on the left who said the taxpayers should not be bailing out Wall Street. And now you're seeing that again today. The president took the opportunity, while not directly making that comparison when asked to with the Tea Party, he did take the opportunity to sort of jump out in front of this parade, if you'll pardon the expression, say that he has fought for reform of Wall Street, and pointing out that many Republican candidates, and you played a couple of them there in your open, are very interested in rolling back some of the things that the president says, and many folks around the country would say were accomplished, obviously, legislatively and signed by the president. At the top of the list is the Dodd-Frank legislation and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And we saw Elizabeth Warren there, go ahead, Mark.
Absolutely. Luke, we've got the president meeting with Senator Reid today on his jobs bill and the plan to pay for it with a millionaire surtax. And we've heard some back and forth about when a vote might take place, if a vote would take place. Can you give us any up-to-date details on that?
Well, the vote that will contain the amended version of the president's jobs plan, i.e. the Senate idea to put the surtax on millionaires, specifically 5%, the first 5% of their wealth, will most likely happen next week. And there is confidence on the Democratic side that they can at least get a ton of Democratic votes for this type of bill, not expected to really attract a lot of Republican votes. And what is Eric Cantor and John Boehner have both said is that the president's president's jobs bill in its entirety is dead on arrival in the House. So where exactly can they work to find common ground? The Republicans are really going to come out next week and say, look, we're going to pass these free trade agreements with Colombia, Panama, South Korea. That's something that we now see as bipartisan because the president is the one who actually sent them down to us. So in terms of a large-scale jobs bill, Martin, you're not going to see one of those come from Capitol Hill. My guess is in the near future, and definitely probably not by the end of this Congress.
Mike, Speaker Boehner was talking today and saying the president, in his words, has given up on the country. Yeah. You've been following the president. Do you get the impression that he is now of the view that these congressional members he simply can't deal with anymore? He's going direct to the people. He's using us, the media, to take a press conference. He's basically finished with them because he can't negotiate with them.
Well, I think you've answered your own question there, Martin. Ever since Labor Day, the president has made this turn, beginning with that talk the Wednesday after Labor Day, to a joint session of Congress and the American people. He's gone on the road. He's gone to John Boehner and Mitch McConnell's backyard, sort of throwing them the high heat, high and inside, trying to almost pick a fight, trying to rile up his base. And one of the more interesting questions that the president was asked at the press conference, he was asked, you know, you always say you want to negotiate with the Republicans, but you seem to be campaigning. Are you negotiating, and are you just running against, like Harry Truman did in 1948, a do-nothing Congress? The president said, well, fine. I mean, it's self-evident. If the Congress does something, then I won't be able to run against a do-nothing Congress. Let the Congress do something, and that is the line you're going to see continually used by the White House over the course of the next months as the primary season unfolds on the Republican side.
On that point, Luke, what are Republicans offering? What is their plan?
Well, what Republicans would tell you in regards to the president, Martin, is that it's an abdication of leadership. That's something that I've heard a lot in terms of him having this my way or the highway approach. That's another talking point.
Abdication of leadership? He's actually constructed a bill. He's prepared to fund the bill. What else is he supposed to do?
What they would say is that that bill is very one-sided and it doesn't have enough that they are willing to agree with. And they've actually said
that's not an absence of leadership.
That's their talking point, which is being repeated throughout. That's the media operation. That's how they roll. You remember, Martin, Republicans are very well disciplined. They get a line, they repeat it, everyone stays on message. What did you have this week in the United States Senate? You had Chuck Schumer saying that his family is making $250,000, $350,000. We're not rich. That was a complete reversal against what President Obama said. You don't see that type of problems within the Republican side in terms of being on message. So that's the message they're going to put forward, that President Obama has is advocating leadership, not providing enough for the country. They're going to come forward next week and they'll offer whatever the things they've offered all along here in this congressional session, which is bills that really promote deregulation, because they say that frees up businesses to spend money because they won't be sacked with this fear that the government is somehow going to bring in their profits.
And of course, you know, 2008 didn't happen, and what we need is less regulation. Fantastic.
Well, their response to that is 2010 happened, and what's our friend Chuck Todd say? Elections have consequences.
Indeed.
That's why, honestly, this Congress will do nothing but five budget fights till 2012. If you're upset, you want to make a difference, go vote in 2012, and maybe try and vote people in that want to work with one another, because these guys clearly don't.
Luke Russert and Mike Viqueira, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon.
Take care.